It's got to be the worst kept secret in football. It's one of those secrets or one of those stories that's going to run and run. It has been running for ages. I've not wanted to believe it. Unfortunately, I feel like we've got no choice now but to believe it. But Declan Rice does appear to be looking like he's leaving the club this summer. I'll be stunned if it turns around any other way. I think there's quite acceptance everywhere that's going to happen. Although that is sad, it is going to be a hard one to take for every West Ham fan when none of us are looking forward to it. I don't know about you, mate, but I'm starting to feel a little bit of comfort from it, though, knowing that we've got Flynn Downes in our squad, who I genuinely believe will step into Rice's shoes, and I think he will do a very good job. I'm not necessarily saying he's going to be as good as Declan Rice, because that is very, very difficult to match, and they're different players entirely. But what's your feelings on Downes, mate? Because I actually genuinely think we've got a really, really good player in our hands there.
Mate, Filiesta, I've said it before. I honestly, I'm a huge fan, and I think he's waited for his opportunity, and I think he still is waiting for his opportunity. He's probably one of the better midfielders that we do actually have. The way that he can break up the play, the way that he's able to go forward. I mean, look, we're talking about Declan Rice here. This is it's tough shoes to fill. It's we're talking about a player who could be valued between 80 to 100 million pounds, and is probably going to go on to play Champions League football and win medals and stuff. Is Downes that player? Maybe not. I mean, he's still young. I think he's 23 years of age.
Yeah, it's quite. Yeah, so
he's around. He's around Rice's age.
I'll look at while you're talking. I'm going to look it up, mate.
Fair enough. As professional as ever, obviously. But for me, I just think we can go out there and let's say we get 80 million pounds. We can go out there and try and get a Rice replacement. But for me, there's not many people out there that I think can actually fill Rice's shoes. There's not. I mean, I don't know about you, but apart from someone maybe like Ruben Neves, which would he make the jump to us? I'm not really sure. And a big team hasn't really come in for him just yet. I'd be more interested in maybe. I mean, it's a difficult one, isn't it? Because I think Paqueta can play that 8, so I don't think we need to spend big money on an 8. But if we have 80 million pounds, we can bring in like a good winger, a good fullback, a good centre back, and then maybe gauge in a couple of years who we're going to have as the Rice replacement. Because, like you say, this has been going on for a long time. So whether Rice or the board whether Moyes or the board have come in and got their sort of Rice replacement shortlist done already, I'm not sure. But I think the amount of money it's going to cost to get someone to fill his shoes, we might as well give a player who has, I'm pretty sure, been man of the match every single time he's started for it, has gone out there and hopefully he's the type of player that is being shepherded by Rice a little bit. I mean, if I was Downes and I would come to Moyes and say, look, I've been under Rice's wing for so and so now. Don't look any further. Come, just why not stick me in there for a little bit? And obviously, there's no harm done if we bring him in and he's not really, fulfilling Rice's shoes. We can always go out and buy somebody else. But I genuinely think that Rice's departure will not be as bad with someone like Flynn Downes waiting in the ranks.
I agree, mate. I completely agree. I genuinely believe that. What I've seen of Downes, what I've seen of him and watching him play, like you said, I've not seen him play badly once. In fact, I've seen him every time he's put on the West Ham shirt, he's looked great. I thought, again, in Europe, he's been exceptionally good. He played the game against Derby. No, I appreciate people say, yeah, that was League One. That's very different. Yeah, that's correct. It is different. But he was exceptionally good, like really, really good. Distribution of the ball, his vision. And he actually reminds me of Rice. Now, I don't know whether that's because that's the kind of player he is or he's been working with Declan for a period of time and sort of trying to mirror his game a little bit. But he was really... And it kind of made me think that this is the player that could just slot into that role quite well. And obviously... The one thing is about Downes that's lovable more than anything as well is the fact that he's a West Ham fan. He loves the football club. So who better really to sort of slide into that role and slot in and do well? I mean, and what I'm noticing of late is Moyes seems to be leaning towards Downes more than when, at the earlier stage of the season. It's almost like he was kind of actually calling him out, if you remember, very early stages for some bizarre reason about his work rate and stuff. We're all going, why is he being called out? In playing. And now he's becoming one of his Premier League midfielders. He came on against Chelsea. I think he did a good job. It wasn't his normal position, but I think he played pretty well. I actually really, really rate him. And I don't know, like you say, but then now in the head, I think, well, we know where West Ham operate. We're not big spenders naturally. We don't like to throw money around. We don't really have enough money to... That West Ham, all right, even if we do sell Rice and they sell him, let's just say for £100 million, they're not going to invest £100 million on one player. That's not going to happen. I imagine they will then say, right, we will invest £80 million across the squad and probably buy 2 or 3 players out of that. That's what my guess will be. But you're right. If I was Flynn Downes, I'd be saying to Dave Moyes, you don't need to go out and sign a big midfielder. You don't need it. I want someone that can slot in. I have interest though. If you we sell Declan Rice, and let's just say you are going to bring in a replacement for him for his position, and you could go out and sign someone in realistic terms, who would you go for? Who do you think would be a decent bit of business if we could go and do that?
I mean, that's what I'm saying. It's quite difficult to try and pick up someone with the caliber of Declan Rice. I mean, for me, I'm a huge fan of Ruben Neves, but I'm not sure if his breakup play is as good as Rice. I think his distribution is up there. I think long shots, he's definitely got some numbers of Rice. Definitely penalties, he's got the better of Rice. And he's only 26 years of age. I mean, I don't know whether it's a better thing to adopt the Man United model, go out and buy an established CDM to kind of, shore up the team and fill those shoes and, have someone coming through the ranks. They've just gone out and bought Casemiro, completely transformed their side completely. But, he's only going to be there for a couple of seasons. Yeah. So I think if we're going to go out there and buy a future star like Declan Rice is, someone who's going to be in the team for the next 5-10 years, I think you ought to just sort of look to Downes and try and get him in. But, if you want to get a quick fix and someone who's going to shore up the sort of stage, then I think you need to go out and maybe buy a bit more of an experienced CDM. But again, I'm really struggling to come up with a name besides Ruben Neves. There's not
the one that jumps out for me, the obvious one, who you imagine we will get linked with if they come in for Rice, which I imagine they will, is Calvin Phillips of City. There's been talk that he could possibly be available. I don't think his time at City's working out as they would have hoped. So there is a vacant position there for a defensive midfielder. So, for me, City would be probably the more likely destination of Declan Rice. Although at the moment everyone's saying Arsenal will probably favourites, Chelsea are very much in for him. But I imagine Manchester City will come in for him. I can imagine that happening. Would you want someone like Calvin Phillips coming to West Ham? I rate him as a footballer, but I do have concerns over him. Are you the same, or would you think no, get him straight into to West Ham if that was available?
See, again, when I look at Downes and I think of his best attributes being, breaking up play and swiping the ball off the opposition, passing it to someone like Paqueta for a quick transition, I don't really see that of Phillips as much. Phillips is more of like a powerhouse. He's more of a player that's going to pick up the ball and drive with it. When he played in Leeds, he didn't play in a 4-2-3-1 necessarily. He played in a 4-1-4-1, and he's not really got his shot at Manchester City. Is there a reason for that? I don't know. And I also think we'll be priced out of a move. I'd rather, they're going to be asking, let's say they buy Rice for 80 million and he's included. They're going to drop the asking price probably down to 50. Probably like to, sort of like 30, 40. They're going to value Phillips at around 50, 40 million. I think they did sign him for a fair bit from Leeds. So I do worry about, I often think when you do trade deals for players, there's more in it. It'd be like, if sort of they came to us and said, look, we'll give you Calvin Phillips in the deal, but we're not going to sell him to you otherwise. So, we're going to knock off a bit the asking price for Rice, because if you want Calvin Phillips, then you're going to have to buy him outright. I do think there is that little bit of a discussion going on there, and it's going to knock his asking price down. So
it is. I think at the same time, I think it depends, doesn't it, whether West Ham see that as a valuable option to take. Because at the end of the day, there's no denying Phillips is a very good player. There's no denying that. He's proven it. He's proven it at City, really, although he hasn't been given much of a chance as such. And I know he's had some injury issues there. That's my main concern with Phillips, to be honest. It's just he seems to have non-stop injuries, and it would be a typical West Ham signing for me. It's like someone that's just got a continual injury, because for a fact that if that was to happen, within pre-season he'll probably get injured and we'll have to be without him for a while. Personally, I actually would, as much as I do rate Calvin Phillips, I actually wouldn't want that to happen. I'd rather them just buy Rice outright and we'd have the money and then go and deal with what we want. But who am I to say that, at the same time, it would certainly cushion the blow having someone of his caliber coming in. I'm not knocking that, but I do have concerns over him. But for me, Downes, I actually think he's got the attributes to do the role. I really do. I genuinely think he can take that position on. Let's not forget he would have been training with the likes of Paqueta now for how long the season's been going on for 6 months, whatever, 7 months of football. So he's been used to these players. So it should be a relatively smooth transition, you would imagine. One question I was going to ask you as well, mate, before we wrap this video up, is on Rice's departure, if it does happen. the captaincy, who jumps out at you to taking the armband for West Ham?
I think Agerd is probably a good sort of player. He strikes me as a leader. I often think as well it's good to have a captain that's sort of building from the back. There's not really that many players that jump out to me as captains in that squad. I think probably our biggest thing at the moment is that we don't have too many leaders in our ranks. Like we've got a good sort of squad harmony, but we don't really have that player. I mean, can you imagine Declan Rice in the changing room at half time, scolding all the players and telling them off? And, I just can't really imagine it. I think sometimes you need a bit of a bastard. You need the Roy King, where if you play crap for 45 minutes, you're not necessarily worried about it from the manager. You're also worried about it from his right-hand man, the captain, who's also going to give you a scolding. And even on the pitch, he's going to say, like, what the hell are you doing? Like, and often from Rice, you sort of see the arms go up. And every now and then we concede and he sort of gives the old, like, clap, like, come on, we need to get going. But there's never, like, he never goes over to someone and says, like, what are you doing? Like, that's not good enough, is it? Like, get your fucking head in gear. So for me, I'm struggling to think of a player. I mean, Ogbonna as well, like, he's a bit of a veteran in the squad. Will he play every game? I'm not sure. For me, Agerd kind of sort of jumps in as as a captain. I'm not sure, obviously, what his English is like. I'm not sure.
Well, this is one thing I was going to mention to you. That's one thing. I agree. Agerd for me is the captain in Rice's departure. I think he is. He displays the right attributes. I think he's likable. And he comes across like a leader. He has that aura about him. I think he wouldn't take nonsense. I think he's very likable. I think the players like him, from what I understand. But I also believe that he's no nonsense as well. I think he will tell you as it is. And one thing I really do like about him, when I saw him in an interview, he speaks fluent French. So he speaks fluent French to the players. He speaks Arabic as well. He speaks Spanish fluently. He speaks English fluently. I think that really helps as well. Having a captain that can pretty much communicate very clearly and with all the squad. I think that really, really helps. And he just comes across, doesn't he? Like when you see the videos of the club and what they show at training, he just comes across like they really like him. Which again, when we're talking about Flynn Downes taking the position of Rice in the midfield, in terms of the captaincy, again, you'd imagine it being quite a smooth transition that people would go, it's not as if they go, oh God, we can't cope with this. It's going to be so different. They know Agerd, they quite like him. I've said it to X, I said it to him on the podcast this week, that I actually think having Downes and Agerd in the squad is going to be, I think, significantly soften the blow of Rice's impending departure. Of course, if it does happen, because it's still not 100% confirmed, but it's looking likely, isn't it? But let's wait and see.
Well, Flynn Estimate, our new number 41.
Absolutely.